Welcome back class to the news of 31st May from the newspaper The Hindu, and if you are preparing for any government examination you can visit our website isby.com or exammap.com, or you can contact us on a WhatsApp number also. So let's start the video. First topic is G7. It is an intergovernmental organization that was formed in 1975, and the bloc meets annually to discuss the issues of common interest like global economic governance, international security and energy policy. And it does not have formal constitution or a fixed headquarter. The decisions taken by the leaders during annual summits that are not binding, that is, these decisions are non-binding, and the groundwork for the summit, including matters to be discussed and follow-up meetings, is done by the Sherpas, who are generally personal representatives or members of diplomatic staff such as ambassadors, and the leaders of important international organizations like European Union, IMF, International Monetary Fund, World Bank and United Nations are also invited, and issues are not all of G7 countries are among most advanced now. India is both as military and economic giant, but it is not a part of G7. So the point to remember is India is not a part of G7, and so its expansion, just like that of United Nations Security Council, is called for. Next topic is National Infrastructure Pipeline. So it was announced in the Union Budget in 2019-2020 for an outlay of 100 lakh crore for the infrastructure projects over the next 5 years. So it is first of its kind initiative to provide world-class infrastructure across the country and improve the quality life for all citizens, and it will improve project preparation, attract investments both domestic and foreign into infrastructure, and will be crucial for attaining the target of becoming $5 trillion economy by the financial year 2025. So it covers both economic and social infrastructure projects. About Atanu Chakravarti report, the task force headed by Chakravarti on National Infrastructure Pipeline in May 2020 and submitted its final report and has recommended that the investment fund would be 111 lakh crore over the next 5 years to build infrastructure projects and drive economic growth. And energy, roads, railways and urban projects are estimated to account for the bulk of projects, around 70%, and the center 39%, and state would be 40%, are expected to have almost equal share in implementing the projects, while the private sector has 21% share. An aggressive push towards asset sales, monetization of infrastructure assets, setting up of development financial institutions, and strengthening the municipal bond market. Next topic is citizenship. So Citizenship Amendment Act 2019 seeks to amend the Citizenship Act 1955, and it provides 1955 Act provides various ways in which citizenship may be acquired. It provides for the citizenship by birth, descent, registration, naturalization, and by the incorporation of territory into India. In addition, it regulates the registration of overseas citizens of India, cardholders, and their rights. And OCI is entitled to some benefits such as multiple entry, multi-purpose lifelong visa to visit India. So the key features of Citizenship Act 2019, that citizenship on the basis of religion. So the bill amends the Act 1955, and for the first time it will grant citizenship on the basis of religion to non-Muslim communities from Afghanistan, Bangladesh and Pakistan who entered India on or before December 31st, 2014. Second is non-Muslim communities included. So Hindu, Sikh, Buddhist, Jain, Parsi and Christian, and this implies that migrants who identify themselves with any group or community other than those mentioned here from above mentioned countries weren't eligible for the citizenship. Exception that the provisions on the citizenship for illegal migrants will not apply to two categories, that is state protected by inner line and areas covered under 6th schedule of constitution. So the inner line permit is a special permit that citizens from the other parts of India require to enter a state protected by the inner line permit regime, and without it granted by state government, an Indian from another state cannot visit a state that is under the inner line permit scheme. So for the sixth schedule, it relates to the special provisions in the administration of certain northeastern states, that is Assam, Tripura, Meghalaya, and Mizoram, and it provides special powers for autonomous district councils in these states. And the citizenship by naturalization under the Act 1955, one of the requirements for the citizenship by naturalization is that applicant must have resided in India during last 12 months as well as for 11 of the previous 14 years. The amendment relaxes this second requirement from 11 years to 5 years as a specific condition for applicants belonging to specified 6 religions, and additional ground for cancelling overseas citizen of India registration, that is violation of any law notified by central government, and bill does not provide any guidance on the nature of laws which the central government may notify. Next topic is new spider cricket. So it has been found in Pura caves of Chhattisgarh. So the important point is Pura caves located in Chhattisgarh, and the new subgenus was named Jayanti after Professor Jayant Biswas, one of the leading cave explorer in country who assisted the team, and it has 12 subgenus or species of cricket identified under the genus Arachomimus saucer 1897. So it is a genus name given by Swiss entomologist Henry Louis Frederick de Saucer in 1878 to the cricketers that resembled spiders, and the word Arachomimus derived from two ancient Greek words. Arachne means spider and mimos means imitator, actor. So it apt because crickets of this group are commonly called spider crickets because of their smaller body size and long legs. Next topic is Namibia genocide. So the Germany for the first time has recognized that it committed genocide against the Herero and Nama people present day Namibia during its colonial rule over a century ago. So it promised financial support of over 1 billion euros to the Southern African nation. Between 1904 to 1908, German colonial settlers killed tens of thousands of men, women, and children from the Herero and Nama tribes, and after they rebelled against colonial rule in what was they called German Southwest Africa, and while Germany has previously acknowledged the atrocities, they refused to pay direct reparation for many years. But after 5 years of negotiations between the two countries as they attempted to heal the wounds, German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas on Friday announced a fund of 1.1 billion euros to help aid communities projects in Namibia. Next topic is tree plantation. A tree cannot be transplanted by simply uprooting it. It places and placing it in a pit dug elsewhere. So the process involves multiple steps and requires significant expertise. So the first step is the soil around the tree is dug up to isolate the roots, and the big branches are lopped off, leaving only small shoots for regeneration. This is done to make transportation of the tree to the new location easier, and the root system is covered with wetty gunny bags to protect root and to keep the tree hydrated. And the tree has to be first sent to a nursery to acclimatize to a new kind of soil and to regenerate. Once new shoots start sprouting, the tree is lowered into a pit created in its new spot. An expert says that transplantation of trees is a complex and delicate process whose outcome cannot be predicted. So what factors determine the success of a transplant? Even after all steps meticulously followed, a lot depends on the luck. Survival rate of the transplanted tree is about 50%, and if it is survives, the tree may take up to 10 years to grow a full canopy similar to what is originally had. And not all trees can be transplanted. While people, ficus, simul, and sesame are tolerant to transplantation, and trees such as dak, palash, arjun, setut, jilmil are not tolerant to transplantation. So any tree that has a tap root system cannot be transplanted as the root goes deep into the soil and it is not possible to isolate with it without a damage. And transplanting any tree with a trunk girth of more than 80 to 90 centimeter is not advisable as the tree cannot bear the shock and will eventually die. Next topic is anti-dumping duty and inert gases. So anti-dumping duty is a protectionist tariff that a domestic government imposes on foreign imports that it believes are priced below fair market value. So dumping is a process where a company exports a product at a price lower than the price it normally charges in its own home market. So the duty is aimed at ensuring fair trading practices and creating a level playing field for domestic producers and foreign producers and exports, and the duty is imposed only after a thorough investigation by a quasi-judicial body such as Directorate General of Trade Remedies in India, and the imposition of anti-dumping duty is permissible under World Trade Organization. Inert gases. Inert gas is a gas that does not undergo chemical reactions under a set of given conditions. So the noble gases often do not react with many substances were historically referred to as inert gases. These are used generally to avoid unwanted chemical reactions degrading a sample, and undesirable chemical reactions are often oxidation and hydrolysis reactions with oxygen and moisture in air. So these are the undesirable chemical reactions, that oxidation, hydrolysis reaction with oxygen and moisture in air. So the term inert gas is context depend because the several of the noble gases can made to react under certain conditions. So purified argon and nitrogen gases are most commonly used as inert gases due to high natural abundance and low relative cost. And unlike noble gases, inert gas is not necessarily elemental and often a compound gas. Like noble gases, tendency for non-reactivity is due to the valence outermost electron shell and being complete in all the inert gases. So the tendency is not a rule. Noble gases and other inert gases can react to form compounds. Next topic is World Health Assembly. It is the forum through which World Health Organization governed by its 194 member states, and it is world's highest health policy setting body and composed of health ministers from member states, and the members of World Health Assembly generally meet every year in May in Geneva and location of WHO headquarters. So the main function of WHA to determine the policies of organization, appoint the Director General, supervise financial policies and review and approve the proposed program budget. Next topic is midday meal scheme. So with a view of enhancing enrollment, retention and attendance, simultaneously improving nutritional levels among children, and national program of nutritional support to primary education was launched as a centrally sponsored scheme in 1995, and in 2001 midday meal scheme became a cooked midday meal scheme. So the midday meal scheme comes under the HRD, Human Resource Development Ministry, Department of School and Education and Literacy, and it covers children of class 1 to 8th studying in government aided schools, special training centers, madrasas, maktabs, supported under the Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, and it is largest school feeding program in the world, and the scheme covers all government and government aided schools, also madrasas, maktabs supported under Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, and it is covered by the National Food Security Act 2013. Next topic is role of mangrove in coastal protection. So it help in coping with floods by acting as a barriers through factors such as bottom friction, cross shore width of forest, tree density and shape, which can help in reducing the force of flood waves as they pass through the mangrove forest, and the aerial roots of mangrove forest retain sediments and stabilize soil in the areas between high tide and low tide by reducing erosion during storms and floods, and the roots, trunk and canopy of the mangroves can dissipate storm surges and waves, and studies show that the mangroves can reduce up to 66% of wave energy in the first 100 meter of forest width, and it also cope with the sea level rise of through gradual vertical growth. Next topic is section 304B of IPC state that if a woman dies within 7 years of marriage by any burns or bodily injury, or it was revealed that before her marriage she was exposed to cruelty or harassment by her husband or any other relative of the husband in connection to demand dowry, then death of the woman will be considered as dowry death. So the punishment of dowry, that is a minimum sentence of imprisonment of 7 years or maximum sentence of imprisonment for life, and essential ingredients that the death should be caused by burns or bodily injury or by any other circumstances, and death must occur within 7 years of marriage, and it must be revealed that the soon before her marriage she was exposed to cruelty or harassment by her husband or any other relative, and the cruelty or harassment on her should be in connection with the demand for dowry. Next topic is qualified institutional placements. These are way to issue shares to the public without going through standard regulatory compliance, and instead of it follow a looser set of regulations, but where LOTs are more highly regulated, and the practice is mostly used in India and other Southeast Asian countries, and these were created to avoid dependency on forest resources for raising capital, and qualified institutional buyers are the only entities allowed to purchase qualified institutional placements. So the buyers is an investor is dubbed a qualified institutional buyer if they are thought to require less regulatory protection than unsophisticated investors. Next topic is International Olympic Committee. So it was created on June 1894. The first Olympic Games of modern era opened in Athens on 6th April 1896, and it is not for profit independent international organization, and headquarter is in Switzerland, and it is a supreme authority of Olympic movement and responsible for organization modern summer and winter Olympic Games, and it is governing body of National Olympic Committees, and which are national constituents of worldwide Olympic movements, and as of 2016 there are 200 National Olympic Committees officially recognized by International Olympic Committee. Next topic is National AI Portal. So it is a joint venture by Ministry of Electronics and IT, that is MeitY, and National E-Governance Division and NESCOM, and serves as a central hub for AI, artificial intelligence related news, learning, articles, events and activities in India and beyond. It was launched by Union Minister for Electronics and IT and Law and Justice and Communications, and Sri Ravi Shankar Prasad on May 30, 2020. The event also witnessed the monthly AI Pe Charcha based on theme implementing trustworthy AI solutions, and it an AI based operational excellence framework and live enterprise application platform and several implemented use cases were also demonstrated, especially the use of AI in GST network for fraud detection. Next topic is Srinagar Leh transmission system. So the transmission system was dedicated to nation by the Prime Minister in February 2019, and it connects the Ladakh region to the national grid, ensuring quality and reliable power supply. And it built at a height of around 3,000 to 4,000 meters, and 335-kilometer long transmission line traverses snowbound difficult hilly terrain, and it comprises of 4 new state-of-art and interconnection systems at Dras, Kargil, Khalsi, and Leh. And the project was executed by Power Grid on the consultancy basis under Prime Minister's Reconstruction Plan scheme, and its subsequent to reorganization of erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir into UTs of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, and the state interstate transmission system and transfer to Power Grid with the effect of 31st October 2019 and the date of transformation of 2 UTs of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. So Power Grid is a public limited company under the administrative control of Ministry of Power. It is the largest power transmission company in India, and it started its commercial operation in the year 1992 to 1993, and it is today a Maharatna company. So Power Grid is a Maharatna company. Thank you, class.